Welcome to the Rachel Varga podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Varga, double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist since 2011 with over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures performed. I'm an international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses as well, celebrity skin expert, having been featured on some of the world's top proactive aging podcasts, and much, much more. Learn more at rachelvarga.ca and enjoy today's episode. Welcome everyone to today's episode right here live on the Rachel Varga podcast. I have a particularly exciting episode in store for each and every one of you. We have the very fabulous Susan Bratton joining us today. And in today's show, we are discussing intimacy, radiance, beauty, and slowing aging with Susan Bratton. We're also going to be getting into details on feminine rejuvenation, aka rejuvenation down there for the ladies, but maybe we'll sprinkle in some rejuvenation for the gents as well, because there's some really great technologies that, of course, I'm very familiar with, and Susan and I are comfortable discussing, because we not only want to keep our hair, skin, and nails and our body fabulous, but also down there looking extra fabulous and on point, so we feel our most beautiful, confident selves, even when we're in our most intimate situations. So let me tell you a little bit about today's guest, Susan Bratton. She is the intimacy expert to millions. She's a champion and advocate for all those who desire intimacy and passion their whole life long. She is co-founder and CEO of two corporations, Personal Life Media, Inc., a publisher of heart-connected lovemaking techniques and bedroom communication skills, and The 20 LLC, a manufacturer of organic and botanical supplements that enhance sexual vitality. A best-selling author and publisher of 34 books and programs, including Sexual Soulmates, Relationship Magic, Revive Her Drive, Ravish Him, Steamy Sex Ed, trademark, The Passion Patch, Hormone Balancing, and Hot to Trot. Susan has been featured on the New York Times and on CNBC and The Today Show. She makes frequent appearances on ABC, CBS, The CW, Fox, and NBC. You can find The Susan Bratton Show at betterlover.com, her personal shares on Instagram at Susan Bratton, and her Lust for Life supplements Flow and Desire at the20store.com. Welcome, the super fabulous, radiant goddess, Susan Bratton. How are you today?
Hi, doll. I am so good. Delightful to see you again, and so glad we got to see each other in person and get some real IRL hugs recently at the A4M Longevity Conference. That was a great conference.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I wanted to ask you, what was the one thing you wished you could have stuck in your purse and taken home that you really, really wanted off of that show floor?
Ooh, this is a great question. This is actually a very easy answer for me.
Okay.
That is the OxyHealth hyperbaric chamber.
Okay, yeah. That would have been a good choice for me too, because I did 70 hours of hyperbaric oxygen therapy overcoming my long haul COVID. So I am a massive believer, and I've seen for myself what hyperbaric can do. But what I would have taken home, because I've got a giant hyperbaric tube right down the street from my house, so I don't need to have one at home, is that red light bed with the red light thinger that that could come down over you, so you could basically just be like 360 photo biomodulated. That's what I want. And I was like, okay, how much is it? And he was like, $55,000. And I was like, okay, I'm not taking that home. Darn it. I really wanted that.
Yes, there were some beautiful technologies. And what I really liked about A4M, I mean, this isn't a plug for the conference, but this is where people like Susan and I go to hang out and get the updates. And also because we're attending, we get these upgrades, we get access to all this tech. So here we are, healers, speakers, presenters, teachers from different faculties. We're there to learn, we're there to network, we're there to connect, but we also get access to the best energy tech in the world, not to mention supplements and all sorts of cool things. So there's also, you mentioned like a red light therapy photobiomodulation bed. So that's really nice for cellular regeneration, mitochondria support. But there's also other energy beds too that I've shared on my social media. It's like white and blue. I'm lying on this thing on my Instagram at Rachel Varga Official. And I just feel like this like galactic Pleiadian goddess, just taking all the wonderful energy vibes there. So that was a lot of fun. And of course, getting to see you, you're like this like goddess in real life. You're more of a goddess in real life than I've ever seen anybody in my whole life.
Oh, thank you. You know, it's funny you were talking about being galactic. I don't know if you know this about me, but I jokingly call myself the orgasmonaut. I go to the far reaches of orgasmic outer space and bring back the map to the territory so you can have those orgasms too.
Oh, well, if we're talking about taking things home with us, maybe I should just take you home with me to teach me a couple things.
It's easy to take me home. I put everything on video so you can just watch the videos.
I love it. You were also sharing some really cool work that you were doing with some of your loved ones. So this intimacy stuff, it's not just for, your partner, it's really for women and men, and especially during different times of our lives when you might not actually think that it could be a pleasurable experience like childbirth. It really can be. So you really shared some neat things for me to consider down the line.
Right, I think I was telling you about my ecstatic birth massage that I've been doing with my girlfriend. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to be on today because we're still waiting for baby girl to come. She's at 44 weeks and a day today. And that is a long time for a bun to be in the oven, but it's actually perfectly natural. Most women go into the hospital and they induce at 40, maybe 42 weeks, and they jam the Pitocin in, and they'll break your water, and they force the dilation, and they take the baby out. And my girlfriend is unbelievable. She is so patient. She is holding a massive vision for having an ecstatic home birth, and I'm her ecstatic birth partner. And what I've been doing over the we weren't even going to talk about this today, but I just want to share it for just a second. What I've been doing for the last many months with her is giving her yoni massages and belly massages and breast massages. And I've stroked her hair, and I've stroked her face, and I've rubbed her ankles, and I've rubbed her feet. And I've helped her connect. I've helped her make a mind-body connection to her vulva. What parts I'm touching, how I'm touching them, teaching her things like how to tighten, how to relax, how to push out and open, how to be neutral, and giving her coaching and guidance and giving her pleasure, because she is determined to have a pleasurable home birth, an ecstatic home birth. And I am super honored to be her birth partner. So it's pretty exciting for me too. Really all I did was I did to her what my partner's been doing to me for the last 2 decades with our expanded orgasm practice, which is one of the 20 kinds of orgasm that our human bodies are capable of. So I explore orgasmic potential, including during birth. So it's a real joy for me to be able to participate in this with her. It's a gift.
Wow. And it's funny when we think about this, some of you are probably like, oh my gosh, that sounds like super strange and weird. Well, the things that are kind of considered weird now were quite normal a long time ago.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, like going to the hospital and getting induced, that's considered normal now, but
Right.
that's kind of weird to me. So sometimes getting back to weird is the way to go because it's our most ancestral way.
This is what we women can do for each other. When we sisters come together and we support each other, really incredible, beautiful things can happen. And we can inform our male-bodied partners about our potential, and they can step into their potential, because the male body also has 20 kinds of orgasms that are its potential. And more men are beginning to say, oh, okay, I'd like to explore my potential too. Women are much more oriented toward, okay, I'd like to have a clitoral orgasm. I'd like to have a vaginal orgasm. I'd like to awaken my G-spot. I'd like to try female ejaculation. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I teach is something I call orgasmic cross-training. And I got this idea from one of my mentors, Sherry Winston. She wrote a fantastic book, one of the best books on female arousal that I've ever read. It's called A Woman's Anatomy of Arousal. And understanding our anatomy is so important because that's the Rosetta Stone to your opening to your orgasmic potential, is to understand how the parts work, which is why I did that mind-body connection as I was touching my girlfriend and telling her what I was touching. And orgasmic cross-training from Sherry was, when you find one way to have an orgasm, then start adding in another way and layer on the success that you have. Get started and then add new sensation. And one of the things that I've done to kind of bring that into the 21st century is to show women the 5 different types of, I don't even like the word sex toys. I feel like they're like pleasure partners that you can have in your pleasure chest to orgasmically cross-train and awaken new neural pathways to pleasure, so that when you're with a partner, it's much less stressful. You know you've got great orgasmic response, and that your whole yoni, which is the tantric lovemaking word for your vulva, your urogenital system. When your whole yoni is activated, when all the tissue lights up, you naturally have more pleasure, which lowers your performance anxiety, which allows you the confidence, ease, and grace to really fully enjoy your sexuality. So that's just a little tangent off of some of the things that we were going to talk about today, but things I wanted to share, just to, tickling ideas of tickling your possibilities.
I love that. And the
Thank
words
you.
grace and ease are words that I've carried with me for quite a while in everything that I do. And being relaxed and being fulfilled and being in our feminine is
Yeah.
really important. And then the masculine, being in the healthy divine masculine to support the feminine, is really what can allow us to actually have our greatest intimacy and pleasure in our lives
Yeah.
through balance with one another, that we really can beautifully receive ourselves and then share. And if you're looking at this episode on YouTube, you'll notice that the background of the show is myself laying on a photobiomodulation red light therapy bed with a little female silhouette happening there. The female body, and in particular, our sacral area, reproductive area, is just full of so much power. And when we're moving through things in our lives energetically, it's important to move through that energy sexually also. Sexual energy expression is one of the highest forms of spirituality and energy release. So it's not something that should be brushed under the rug, but in fact, something we should expose the rug, no pun intended, and take it for a ride. So, Susan, tell us about your passion and your story with your beautiful, important work.
Well, when I was about 42, my husband and I were having our 11th wedding anniversary, and we just started talking to each other about our dissatisfaction in our marriage. And I had really stopped enjoying sex with him because I never had an orgasm from intercourse, and I'd been having intercourse with him for over a decade. And it just wasn't that fulfilling to me. And we said, well, we've got to do something about this, because we see all of our friends getting divorced, and we know it's either sex or money. And with our friends, they were all gainfully employed. We were very well-to-do Silicon Valley executives. I mean, you looked at us from the outside in and you thought, oh my God, they have the perfect marriage. They're the perfect power couple with the perfect daughter, with the mansion, with the incredible jobs, all this stuff. And we were very disconnected from each other. My husband had emotionally shut down because he wasn't getting the intimacy that he needed from me. And I was just putting my attention elsewhere and not on my sexuality. And I always wanted to have a good sex life. I married my husband because we were good in bed together in the beginning, but not orgasmic for me. And we're the kind of people who are like, well, let's get some books on Amazon and take some workshops. let's get some help. We don't know anything. And we're lifelong learners. And we're very interested in our personal development as well as our professional development. And that is the kind of person who wants to work on their sex life. They need to be someone who believes that they don't know it all and that there's plenty they can learn. Because I can tell you that I've literally been studying sexuality every single day for 20 years, and I am still endlessly fascinated by the vast landscape of possibility of our sexuality. So we we went to a couple of sex workshops, and it was almost instantly transformational. And it brought us back together. I crossed the gasm chasm, the orgasm gap, as Dr. Lori Mintz calls it on one of her very well-known TED Talks, which is how easy it is for men to have an orgasm from intercourse and how difficult it is for women. And the thing that people believe that is totally wrong, and what I see other sexperts out there doing that they don't have the level of evolutionary process yet to understand, because at 61, I've been around, I've had a lot of sex, I've had a lot of partners, and I've actively studied this on a daily basis for decades. And that is that every single woman in the world can have orgasms from intercourse with their partner without even doing any quote unquote touching of the clitoris, because the clitoris is actually entirely wrapped around our vagina. Our vagina is encircled by a bracelet of erectile tissue. And one of the reasons I want women to understand this is that most often women think, oh, I guess I'm not, this is what happened to me, and what I hear all the time from women, I guess I'm not the kind of person who can have an orgasm from intercourse. I guess that's just not me. And then their partner's like, well, I guess you're not. And then they stop trying. So my message today is that most women are not having it. They don't think they can, therefore they don't. When it is simply a learned skill, and the answer to it is different for every woman, but limiting beliefs are the number one, and the number two is understanding engorgement or blood flow to our vulva and how our erectile tissue system works. And I know later on in our show today, we're going to be talking about vaginal restoration and rejuvenation, biohacking treatments and concepts, because for many women, they just literally have never even had what I like to call, because it makes sense to people, a clitoral erection, enough of one to have orgasms without additional support. So my husband and I learned this. We crossed the gasm chasm. We closed the orgasm gap. I started having great orgasms, and we said, well, what else can we learn? And that's why my passion is passion, and we built a company together. It's at personallifemedia.com. And then I built a website with hundreds and hundreds of free videos to teach people all of the different types of orgasms, how to have passionate lovemaking, how to give a yoni massage and a lingam massage, and, really just to transform having sex into making love. That's what I like to help people do. And that's partly technique, partly communication skills, but mostly it's about what can we learn next together to have more fun in the bedroom.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Good. It is.
I'll just be totally honest with a couple things for myself. Some of the key things that, if we're going to talk about our skinspiration protocol, let's just get right into it. Because you mentioned biohacking. And to me, biohacking is the art and science of hacking our biology. And our mutual friend, Dave Asprey, is the founder of the creator. He created the definition of biohacking. So for me, if I'm going to make sure that my environment is supportive, some of the key aspects that I've really learned about myself over the last number of years is safety, feeling safe, feeling warm. Temperature is a big thing for me. Yeah. Feeling comfortably groomed in my body. So I love to take my delicious Epsom salt bath with my bath oils and just make sure that everything on me is beautifully groomed. That's really important to me, so that I'm comfortable in my own skin and everything about me just feels soft and glassy and delicious and feminine. And then I can feel a little bit more comfortable. Throw some yummy food and dinner and candles, incense, sage, Palo Santos. I love it all. I love setting the stage. But it's the feeling safe and the temperature are really important things for me to set the stage. And what would you say for the environment and the situation for you to be your most comfortable in? To feel your most sexually inspired and supported? What does the room look like for you?
Well, one of the things that I call that setting the lover space. And because women are estrogen dominant and men are testosterone dominant, and most of us, not all of us, and I support the entire Rainbow Sparkle gender spectrum and expression of any one that you want to be, but I usually talk about men and women as in vulva owners and penis owners, just to make it simple. And one of the things that I like to explain to people is this notion that for women, because we're estrogen dominant, safety and security is very high on our list because estrogen is a molecule of safety. Estrogen is there to keep us safe because women are prey and men are predators. And I know that not all men are predators, but you know what I mean in general. This is what we have to watch out for. And so women are also very slow to get aroused generally, especially with a long-term partner. We don't wake up with a hard-on. We don't masturbate every day like our male-bodied partners do. We don't have 5 erections at night if we're healthy and wake up with morning wood. And we don't have the benefits of hemodynamics, making our penis erect within minutes. What we have is the opposite. We move in worry about our safety. We worry about our health. We're much more worried about STIs and contraception. And we're much more worried about the temperature, and the lighting is important to us, that things are clean, that things smell good. Women's number one thing that they want in a male-bodied partner is good grooming, and number 2 is to be emotionally available.
Amen to that on the grooming side of things. Just for all of you gentlemen listening, the grooming,
Yep.
ooh, if you want a well-groomed woman, you better be well-groomed yourself.
Exactly. And so what I like to teach people is how to set the lover space, how to create that. And one of the best things that a guy can do with his woman is to understand that he's already ready to go and she's not there yet. And when he goes in and he sets the lover space, when he gets the fascinator laid down on the bed and he gets the lighting nice and the music's going and the fireplace is turned on and the water pitcher's there and the lube is out and there's a stack of soft towels and he's turned on the candles, because now I went from regular candles to beeswax, but still they're stinky. So now I'm with the electric flickering ones off Amazon.com, 9 pillar candles for $24.95 with a remote control, and I love it. So once he understands that setting the lover space is a part of foreplay, and that as women, foreplay is even more important, or almost like 0.1% as important as intercourse, and that for us, sex is all of the lover space, the holding of us, the stroking of us, the foot rubs, the back rubs, the breast play, the kissing, the yoni massage, the oral pleasuring. And that is all sex to us, not just intercourse. And we need all those things to go up our arousal ladder and get to where he already is. So when I say to guys, turn around, come back and get us where you are. We're not where you are. That's why they grab us by the crotch or they grab our boobs right away, because that's what they want. They're treating us the way they want to be treated. There's nothing wrong with that. They just need to be trained how to handle the female body, our pleasure body. And what a guy wants to do more than anything is to give us the pleasure that we want and to make the conditions right for us so that we can surrender to our pleasure with them.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love the addition of the clean, soft towels nearby. That was a good one. That's hilarious about the flickering candles. Yes. Say no to scented candles. They're
Right.
toxic.
Exactly.
You have to be very aware of your laundry detergents, any plugins. I'm in some Airbnbs right now, and for some reason, there's Glade plugins everywhere and Lysol cleaners. So turn on your air purifiers as well. If you're using candles in the room, it'll create like a nice soft sound. Clean air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, like feeling good physically, detoxed, both physically and emotionally and spiritually, are all huge things in my world to allow me to sink into my most delicious, vulnerable feminine state. And that is really Those are some key elements that a lot of us, I think, are missing. And maybe just reminders there. By the way, we're going to talk a little bit about skin inspiration. So when I
Yeah.
mentioned that beautiful bath, that delicious bath that I like to take, gentlemen, if you're tuning in, draw your loved ones a nice bath with some Epsom salts, magnesium flakes, essential oils. Throw in a couple glugs of the pineapple oil that you can get on the e-store, or get some nice organic avocado oil. Oh my gosh, Susan, never taken a bath with avocado oil. You'll thank me later with you and your partner.
That's what I recommend as lubricant. And
Perfect. I love it.
buy it by the gallon from oilcenter.com, and it's really, really nice. When you get refined, you've got to get refined avocado oil, because if you don't, it's green and it can stain your lingerie and your sheets. So you can get refined avocado oil, and that's what I like, that and sweet almond oil as lubricant, because I always say, if you wouldn't put it in here, don't put it in there.
Right?
It's a vaginal mucosa is just like the inside of your mouth. We're going to talk about that when we get into talking about things like photobiomodulation, lasers, FemiLift, etc. But it's very, very important to use clean sourced oils and not lubes. Lubricants are FDA Class 2 managed products, and they must have preservatives in them to be sold over the counter. So I think it's better to use the same thing you'd be using to make your homemade salad dressing.
Okay, it's funny you mentioned that, because I actually discovered that through making my own homemade salad dressings.
Yeah.
I'd put a little bit of the avocado oil on my hands and on my cuticles, because I'm like Virgo to the T. I like having my cuticles and my nails perfectly groomed. Like, we're talking no hang nails. We're talking everything looking nice and tidy,
Yeah.
visible and what's not visible. Let's just
Yeah.
wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to try a little avocado oil in the bathtub and see what happens. And I actually did a whole newsletter just the other day. I registered for my newsletter at rachelvarga.ca, and I share this wonderful recipe for the skin for exfoliating and hydrating. So thanks for validating that. So when we're talking about other skin inspiration protocols, I look at you and I'm like, oh my gosh, Susan, woman rocking her 60s. Seriously, this is like a real life galactic goddess that's right in front of you right now that you're listening to. You're the most majestic woman I've ever seen in my entire life.
That's so sweet, Rachel. Thank you so much. I have a benefit of being very tall, which is helpful, for sure. I spend a lot of energy on my skin. I feel like it is
Well,
one of
it
the most
shows and doesn't go unnoticed, darling.
it is one of the most important things that I can do for my longevity. Because our skin is such a large organ and a part of our immune system, etc. But I'm also vain as hell, and I want to be the sexiest, most beautiful woman of my age in the entire universe. That is my goal. So what I do when I think about what I call it my skin inspiration protocol, that's a little thing I came up with, and it starts from the inside out. And some of the things that I do, for example, are I make my own yogurt at home. I started with Lactobacillus reuteri and fermenting Lactobacillus reuteri in my yogurt, and then putting that in my morning smoothie, because L. reuteri is the bacteria that generates oxytocin. And most of us have lost our function of oxytocin generation. We know that we get it from touch, from mother's love, from sensuality and intimacy, but many of us are very low oxytocin producers. And oxytocin is also shown in lab rats in both MIT and Stanford studies to make your hair shiny and silky and luxurious, and to make your skin smooth and the wrinkles go away. So I read those studies and went, I'm going to eat a shit ton of Lactobacillus reuteri. And so I started making it in my yogurt until Oxyceutics came out with their Gut to Glow supplement. Now I just take their supplements and I make my yogurt with lactobacillus, let's see, 2 of them. I'm using 2. I'm always trying new probiotics. I'm trying to think about what it is. It's lactobacillus, I'll have to come back to it. It'll come to me. I apologize that I can't think of it right now, but I have Gasseri, Lactobacillus gasseri, and another one that I'll think of. I have a blend of two probiotics. I put that in my morning smoothie along with, I take hyaluronic acid, both high and low molecular weight HA for both skin and joints. I take all 5 types of collagen along with copper and zinc, and I use the vitamin C from mangosteens, which I think are really a good, and camu camu or amla or things, acerola cherries. I like those sour cherry kind of vitamin C's rather than ascorbic acid. I just like the more natural types of things. So I combine both the collagens and the hyaluronic acids with the things that are the precursors to leveraging collagen for hair, bones, skin, teeth, nails, etc. And I also make my own cashew milk. So I don't buy nut milk from the grocery store. I don't like all the plastic waste, and I don't like the thickeners and the gums because they gum up your
And the
body.
toxic oils. You got to check those ingredients. There's like canola and soybean and palm oil snuck in a lot of those
Super gross.
milk alternatives. Ugh, I
Exactly.
know.
So I like to use the almond cow and make my own milk at home. Then I make my smoothie and I put in my prebiotics and my probiotics and my green powders and my bitters for my liver and my Hisho Wu and my collagen boosters. And, it's like 50% powder, 50% other stuff, and then some fresh raspberries, fresh blueberries. I try to get the berries in there as my antioxidants. I'm focused on getting polyphenols in my smoothie as well. So I think that's one of the most important things. The second thing that I do is I use an infrared sauna. I have one at home. I have the M-Pulse from Sunlighten. I'm really happy with that.
I'm so
And
excited to be getting one of those too.
they're excellent. It's a really good product. And then I work out every day with a trainer. So I'm actually physically working on my musculature. I'm focused on my strength. And I'm focused on my strength, my flexibility, my balance, and my stamina. The 4 cornerstones really of longevity. And working out, I think, gives me tighter skin, better skin. And then I do topicals. I use just simple things like cold pressed mango butter. I use the Mutha brand of butter too, Mutha, Mutha. It's an all natural butter that is highly absorbable. And then for my face, I use Young Goose products. I'm sure you know about them. It's so funny. I'm the only one. I just looked down when we started this, and I'm the only one that has a Young Goose bag that also has like prostate massagers in it and sex toys and all kinds of stuff in here.
Oh,
So
that's too funny.
I use a lot of their products because I think they're good. And then I do PRP facials, vampire facials, and vampire hair lifts. I'm wearing an integrated hair piece right now. My hair's rather short, and I lost about half my hair with multiple rounds of COVID, and so it's growing back. If you follow me on Instagram, which is at my name, at Susan Bratton, you'll see me in pictures where I've got my piece on or one of my pieces on, and then you'll see me with cosplay wigs, real long wigs, and then you'll see me with just my regular hair. And it's really been growing back. I also use a red light therapy hat from Capillus. I use the photobiomodulation every morning on my hair to grow it that way as well. So, and I take Qualia hair. So I take Nutrafol for hair, Qualia for mind and skin. So I take like a giant, thing of supplements every day. In addition to all the other things, I take my own Flow nitric oxide supplementation, my own Desire daily multivitamin, multimineral with libido botanicals in it. So I take that supplementation. And I go out in the sun. I don't get sun on my face, but I get sun on my body. I go out naked in my yard and I soak up the D because it makes me feel good. I also swim in the ocean, do yoga in addition to working out, and I ride my mountain bike. So I try to keep busy with all those things because I think that all the exercise is really one of in addition to eating quality foods, lots of leafy greens, lots of salads, lots of good proteins, as few carbs as I can get away with. and trying to limit my alcohol. I do drink, but I try to limit it. I'm really limiting it right now because, December was a drinky month for me. And I think those things all help a lot. And then I also I just had a facelift. I had lasering done. I get Botox and I use PRP fillers. I don't use regular fillers. I use PRP fillers. So I do all of those things and probably many more things that I can't even think about that I do, I'm so used to doing them, I don't even notice I'm doing them anymore. Probably a lot of that too, but it's a hell of a lot of stuff. But I can fit it in and it's important to me.
Wonderful. Well, listening to you, list off all these things you do. Here I am, almost half your age. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah, I'm doing that. So basically the supplements that you mentioned, the vitamin C, the collagen, the antioxidants, I sell like third-party independent lab tested versions of those at rachelvarga.ca. And then the biohacking things you mentioned, they're pretty much already on my favorites page at rachelvarga.ca/favorites. So it's just nice to hear from you. I mean, there's some things that I would say maybe like tweak for myself that I do a little bit differently, but there's a lot of really beautiful overlaps. So basically what I'm hearing from you is that I'm on the right track to look as hot as you in my 60s.
Well, I appreciate that.
And it takes a lot of time to learn which routines and options work for you. Yes. And when it comes to lasers and different rejuvenation options, some are better than others. And then it also comes down to who's applying it. And so you go see our good friend, Dr. Robin Benson, for some PRP stuff. But you have to really listen to me when I say this. Not everybody is, able to do the skin magic stuff. So that's why working with someone like myself, I can give you that extra guidance. But looking at you, Susan, you're on the right track. Let's also add that I love the sun as well. And taking the crazy amount of supplements that I do in the evening, like it's literally like a whole fistful. And as I'm sipping on my smoothie here, you can find my lifestyle cleanse on the favorites page. That's the one I'm sipping on right now. And all of these things are really important. So people are always like, how do we get the best hair, skin, nails of our life? It's never one thing. It's literally an entire lifestyle and making as good of decisions as you can all of the time. So thank you for validating that what I do behind the scenes and teach my clients about, we're on the right track. So I love it. Now, one of the things I also wanted to talk about, and then we're going to wrap up here, is female rejuvenation and also male rejuvenation. And Dr. Robin Benson, she's been on the show. She does a lot of like the P shots, the O shots, but there's also lasers. And I just want to put this out there that, like I said, it comes down to the provider actually doing a good job, because we are actually in the era of the lazy laser technician. And there's all these different lasers on the market. So when you hear laser, there's like hundreds of them. And there's really only two that I personally will get behind. And I disclose that information in a one-on-one session and in my skin camps as well. But when it comes to female rejuvenation, there's a few different options. There's radio frequency, there's photobiomodulation, and then there's also erbium. So when you hear laser, those are three different quote unquote types of lasers that all kind of do different things.
What about CO2 lasers?
Yeah, that's considered in the erbium spectrum as well.
Okay, so you're saying erbium is an umbrella term for the CO2 lasers?
So essentially, when we're thinking erbium and all of that, it's looking for water. So with specific types of lasers, there's a different target. So with photobiomodulation, that's looking for pigmentation. So say, for example, when we're thinking hair removal or getting rid of sun damage and freckles, that's the target for that specific device. So when you get your laser hair removal, you actually get a rejuvenation of the tissues as well, which is incredible, which is why I love to suggest that. But again, you have to be really careful with this stuff. The highest risk of litigation in the medical aesthetics world is actually with lasers. And some clinics will buy the cheapest thing that they can offer and don't know how to use it. And then they do all these specials and then things go wrong. So there is definitely some warnings that go along with that, because this is not medical advice, educational information only. Think you have a medical condition, you must take the guidance of a licensed physician. Don't always go for the best deal. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. And then erbium types of lasers in particular, they essentially are looking for water in the tissue. So they can actually go inside the vagina and elicit heat on the inside in the vaginal canal and help to tighten that. And that can lead to increased pleasure, increased lubrication, tightening, and even help with bladder control and all of that. So it's really fascinating, the technology that's available on the market. So you don't have to suffer with, dryness and not having a lot of sensation. Trust me, the first time I ever had a female rejuvenation, about 2 weeks after, oh my gosh, it was just like, what? 20 minutes to 5 minutes kind of situation. So if you're looking for some guidance on some of the options out there, just book a one-on-one with me and I will help you out. I love that you make your own yogurts. I love that you make your own cashew milks and all that. I get pretty sophisticated with the pre and probiotics that I take. I actually test and set and guess what they are. So once you get that data, sure, you can run with it and make those strains to your liking. I love that you're doing that. I'm just gonna keep hanging out with you, Susan, and taking notes out of your playbook because you are just this radiant goddess and you're super vibrant and healthy. So I just think you're such an inspiration to myself and many others that you touch. Do you have any closing words for us today here on the Rachel Varga podcast?
Yeah. I'd like to say that I would not recommend CO2 lasers or RF devices to any woman who hasn't tried less invasive alternatives first. And
Amen.
there are two things that I recommend to women to rejuvenate their vaginal tissue. And that's there's really 4 quadrants of things that go wrong with women. One is we have lubrication loss. The second is that we have atrophy. So we shrink, our vulva shrinks, which means it begins to sag and it's aesthetically not as beautiful as it used to be. So I like the idea of plumping up the tissue again by reversing atrophy and bringing in new tissue growth. And then incontinence is a big issue for most women, and I think we should be women who say, I refuse to wear a panty liner. I'm not going into diapers. I'm going to keep my pelvic musculature strong, and I think there are treatments for that. And the last thing is the difficulty to achieve orgasm, which you intimated, which is that as we age, it gets harder to get to climax because of tissue loss and atrophy. And the two things that I recommend, the very first one is a vagina device, an intravaginal vagina device that it's called the VFit Gold. Do you know about this? It's a Canadian company. I think you'll really like it. Let me see if I can get it to turn on. This is photobiomodulation. So it's red light therapy, intravagina red light therapy with warmth and with toning, with Kegel toning. So it helps with incontinence, lubrication, engorgement, etc. It's great for the inside of the vagina if you're having painful sex, loss of lubrication, incontinence. And then you can learn more about that at Vagina.
You'll literally be glowing from the inside out.
Exactly. And this is at vaginadevice.com. This is a great product. And then I also match that with FemiWave, which is acoustic wave. So it's not RF and it's not CO2, and it's doing much lighter micro damage. You're not going to weep from it. It's not like a burn. It's not going to hurt. It's a series of treatments that are from the outside. They apply the acoustic wave to the clitoral structure, to the mons, to the outer labia to plump them up so it's aesthetically pleasing, to the perineum to shore up the pelvic bowl. It reconstitutes lubrication. It helps reverse the atrophy. You get better orgasmic response. You reverse your incontinence, and you look pretty again, which I love. It's not so shriveled up. And the combination of the VFit and the FemiWave are a beautiful 1-2 punch, but there's a really simple thing that every woman should do that will really help with lubrication and sensation, and that is nitric oxide booster supplementation. It's very important to understand that
Blood flow?
Your loss of libido, quote unquote, from your hormones is not always your hormones. A big contributor is that by the time you're 50, you have half the nitric oxide you did when you were 20. You're not getting the blood flow to your pelvis. And the vagina is a muscle. It's not a gland. It's a stretchy muscle. Baby, ecstatic heads have to come out of there. And your blood plasma seeps through your vaginal mucosa to wet your vagina. And though how wet you are and lubricated you are is not how turned on you are, it's not really a sign of arousal. You could be super aroused but dry. When you're nice and wet all the time, and FemiWave does this so well. The VFit gets you going, but if you really need it, you add that FemiWave on, and I'll tell you, I am more wet now than I've ever been in my life, even in my 20s and 30s. I mean, the lubrication I have is incredible. I'm not even using lube right now. It's unbelievable. And it makes me feel more turned on because I'm so wet. I love it. So I think there are these really great technologies. Take a nitric oxide booster. I make one. It's called Flow. It's at buyflownow.com. If you'd like, it's a special podcast page for podcast and vidcast listeners. Or just take somebody's. Mine is organic, which is important to me, and made from real fruit and vegetables, not from corn liquor in a Chinese factory full of pesticides. You gotta watch for that. You gotta keep those pesticides out of everything. But taking a nitric oxide booster is the very first step before you're moving into procedures and treatments like the PRP, like the vagina device, like the FemiWave. But they're all available and they're reasonably priced and they work great. And I think about vaginal restoration in two ways. I think about there's restoration or rejuvenation, which is reversing aging. And then there's biohacking, which is this is the normal place you are, wherever that is, but you can make it even better with things like the O-shot and orgasmic cross training and some of the stuff we've been talking about. So you can get yourself back to where you were and you can take yourself higher.
Wonderful. And just to clarify, in case some of you don't know this, I've performed hundreds of vaginal rejuvenation procedures. So I'd be curious, Susan, if off air, I'll tell you of what my two favorite vaginal rejuvenation options are.
Yeah, and I'll get you in for FemiWave and introduce you to the VFit team for the vagina device because, luckily technology keeps moving forward and we don't have to do what I consider to be fairly drastic treatments first. Mm-hmm. We can start with things like an at-home device, add on the FemiWave. It's not so invasive. I have burned the crap out of my vagina with some of that stuff. And I've had
you have to be really careful with some of the tech. So I don't always like to say on air specific brands of tech I recommend because they're unfortunately you can look it up and you could be getting a knockoff. So I like to work with clients to say, okay, here's where to go, what to ask for. But there's so many options. And when we're talking about things like CO2 and erbium, CO2 is like the old school, let's fry your face off. And erbium is a little bit more of a gentle approach. I do have an opinion on radio frequency technologies. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of something we can talk about off air or in a one-on-one session. But there are some things to consider with that. But things are advancing so quickly.
Yes, they are.
So when something comes on the market, it usually takes us a few years to a decade to figure out, okay, is this a great product? What are the applications? Mm-hmm. How can we tweak it? How can we make it even better? And so my advice would never be to go for the newest thing on the market. You really want to do your due diligence. And I always have the 7 to 8 euro rule plan. Make sure that things have been around on the market for a while before trying it out so that you're not a guinea pig. Because what you said, you fried yourself probably because someone came up to you and was like, oh, you got to try this. We got Susan Bratton, give this a go. And you're like, oh my gosh, that was way too much. So
I've been fried more than once.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm very careful about what I recommend. Because I don't recommend it unless I've done it myself. And there's a lot of things I won't recommend. So that's why the things I recommend are why I recommend them, because they're gentle, they're safe, and they're effective. And I don't like people to go to the most draconian things when they could start with something so much more tried, true, and safe that will actually work, like taking a nitric oxide supplement if you're having lubrication issues. You know,
or how about just modulating and reducing your electromagnetic exposure too, to help with your blood and ground outside. Sometimes it's the most simple options are the best one, like avocado oil. It's great for that. It's great for your skin. Oh my gosh, like make your own scrub at home with Epsom salts and avocado oil. It's absolutely delightful. Well, I'd love to have you back on the show. I love connecting with you, Susan.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll see each other again many more times in this year.
I hope so.
And yeah, I look forward to trying some of your recommendations that I maybe haven't yet tried. But yeah, just like you, I mean, I'm not going to recommend anything unless I've tried it myself. I've done my due diligence. So that's why it's great having individuals like yourself on the team and on the podcast to share some great insights. So everyone, I warmly invite you to learn more about the fabulous Susan Bratton at personallivemedia.com.
It's Personal Life Media.
personallifemedia.com and her main website at betterlover.com. And all of the contact details for Susan are directly in the show notes. You can also find her at Susan Bratton on social media. And if you're ever at an event like A4M and Biohacking Conference, you're like, who is this blonde goddess who's like statuesque and like the most beautiful, radiant woman like I've ever, like, seriously, I mean this.
It'll be Rachel Varga.
You're too kind, Susan. But I was mentioning you. Really, there's only been a handful of times, really only two times I've seen ultra radiant humans. And you are one of those. So keep doing what you're doing. You're super
orgasm
fabulous.
Powered girlfriend.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's what orgasms will do for you.
Keeps you young.
And a lot of skincare.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, Amitai Eshel from Young Goose has been on the show.
Amitai's amazing.
I do have a couple of picks from him also, but I like to kind of combine the best of the best. I'm not just like, okay, this brand's the best. It's like I distill down the best of the best, and have been using some of his products long term now just to kind of test things out. And I definitely have some favorite picks from him as well. He's such a cool dude. When I saw him at A4M, he like turns over, he's like, Rachel, is that you? It's so funny.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah,
he's cool.
He is.
Wonderful. Well, have an amazing rest of your day. I'm going to go watch Avatar because that just came out.
Oh, I just saw it and it is so good.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes long and I recommend mushrooms.
Well, I take adaptogens, so
perfect. You've got your reishi and your lion's mane going. You've got your lion's mane on your head.
Oh, I do. Yes,
yes,
you're
you
right.
do.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see you again.
I look forward to it.
I love you so much. Love the work that you're
Rachel.
doing.
Love
So
you
everybody continue to be inspired by the fabulous Susan Bratton. You are like my life. Like, oh my gosh, yes. Just keep taking notes from you. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us here on the Rachel Varga podcast. Love you so much. Check out the show notes of this episode. Find all past episodes at rachelvarga.ca/blog. And be sure to subscribe right here on the Rachel Varga podcast, Rachel Varga official YouTube channel, and Rachel Varga official on social media. If you have any questions from today's show, send me a direct email, info@rachelvarga.ca. And don't forget to book your one-on-one with me to discuss customized at-home and in-clinic options just for you. Use promo code podcast15. And I look forward to being your guide to help you achieve the best hair, skin, and nails of your life. And everybody hang out and take Susan Bratton's programs, consume her media as well. She's a wealth of knowledge. And she's actually, in fact, my favorite sexual energy and sex magic speaker. And we'll see you guys again here on the Rachel Varga podcast.